medicine specialist at Duke University Health System.
So when stressors get beyond just typical day-to-day, but become what we call more toxic stressors, that's when the hormonal context of puberty may actually modulate the impact of that on mental health and may actually increase risk for mental illness among certain girls and young women. And so it's a complicated domain.
Complicating things more, Dr. Chung says doctors are seeing an ongoing trend of puberty starting sooner. An article in the journal Pediatrics reveals young girls are developing breast a year earlier.
Coming up on KTTC News at 10, attention renters and landlords. There are some new Minnesota laws starting January 1st that you need to know about. Plus, a Pine Island photographer is using her talent to help a neighbor in need. But first, we have the latest on weather conditions after an icy night. Your 10 o'clock news starts now.
Live from your local news leader, this is KTTC News.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Zempel. Things are pretty slick and icy out there tonight, so let's start with weather. Meteorologist Sarah Gannon joins us now from the weather patio. Hi, Sarah. What's the latest?
Hey there, Megan. Well, in the short distance I had to go from the building to where I'm standing here on the weather patio, glare ice. I had to do that little penguin shuffle that many of us have to do every winter just because it's like a little literal skating rink out here on the weather patio. So this is just a sampling of what I can only imagine is out across the region here as this freezing drizzle continues. So that is what's making conditions so icy here tonight, is that freezing drizzle. Now we have been seeing some slight improvement to those road conditions as plows have been able to get out and treat and salt and do some work on those roads. So we are still seeing quite a bit of ice, though, across southeast Minnesota and parts of northeast Iowa as this freezing drizzle continues. So there's a look at your current road conditions here for the area. That winter weather advisory continues here at this hour. However, it has been extended until about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So anticipating to see at least a glaze of ice here in southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa, and really any of those counties highlighted in purple, in addition to up to an inch of snowfall. That's what we're going to be seeing later on tonight. So although this is a rather small system, it's packing quite a punch, especially with this freezing drizzle here to kick things off. But that snow starting to arrive on our northern edge there, moving throughout the Twin Cities metro area here at this hour, and will gradually make its way into southeast Minnesota as the evening progresses. So here's a live look outside from your Lewis Noto live camera. Right now, sitting at 24 degrees here in Rochester, area wide, looking at temperatures in those low to mid 20s with wind chill values in the teens for many. So as we progress here in the next few hours, looking to see snowfall continue to move through the area, gradually making its way into the Rochester area by about midnight or so, and we'll slowly see those snow showers tapering off by about 7 a.m. Few flurries looking to continue there through the lunch hour. So we'll continue to time out and track those forecast details here when it comes to the snow for tonight, but we're also keeping a close eye on these icy conditions here this evening. All the latest forecast details coming up in your First Alert weather in just a few minutes. Megan.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Well, when the calendar flips to 2024 on Monday, several new laws will take effect in Minnesota, impacting hundreds of thousands of renters and property owners. Danny Spiewak reports.
Hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans live in rental units, including the majority of people in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Most tenants and most landlords get along with each other. They figure it out.
Mike Vra runs a tenant hotline at the organization Homeline.
They need each other. A landlord needs a tenant to pay the rent, and the tenant needs a landlord to provide housing.
But starting Monday, there are some changes to state law that will impact that relationship.
This is definitely giving tenants more certainty on some things.
Besides the heat rule, the legislature passed a number of requirements for property owners, including giving 24 hours notice before entering a rental unit, mandating the right to inspections before or after a move, disclosing additional fees and advertisements, and issuing 14 days written notice before filing evictions for not paying rent.
It gives a tenant a chance to come up with the money, whether it's from emergency assistance, maybe a friend, family member, a church even.
Many building owners already follow some of these rules.
They're following it, but it's always good to have a little bit of flexibility.
Cecil Smith heads the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, which represents 2,000 housing providers.
It just adds a lot of cost. When we keep adding lots more regulations onto the housing sector, it doesn't improve the housing affordability challenge. It only makes it harder.
For example, Smith points to the 14-day eviction notice.
There's 2 more weeks before any rent gets paid.
He also takes issue with the 24-hour notice of entry.
And that doesn't allow for flexibilities like deliveries of new appliances, sometimes hard to get a delivery done.
Previously, landlords only had to give what was known as reasonable notice, although some used 24 hours as a general rule.
But there was that handful of landlords that didn't, and so this gives everybody some clarity on what's fair.
The Biden administration has bypassed the traditional congressional approval process and approved another emergency arms sale to Israel. This as the Israel-Hamas war rages in Gaza, where heavy dark smoke could be seen today over Gaza's skyline. The Biden administration is selling $147 million in equipment, including fuses, chargers, and primers, which is intended to work with the nearly 14,000 tank shells it sold to Israel in early December for $106 million. According to the State Department, Secretary of State Antony Blinken approved the sale, saying he exercised his delegated authority to determine an emergency existed and that it's vital to U.S. national interest to ensure Israel is able to defend itself against the threat it faces. Flu activity continued to rise in most parts of the country last week. According to the CDC's weekly influenza surveillance report, there was a 16% jump in people testing positive for the flu. The report also showed that outpatient respiratory illness was above the national baseline for the 8th consecutive week. The CDC said 875 viruses were reported by public health labs, as well as 6 influenza-associated pediatric deaths, bringing the 2023-2024 influenza season total to 20. A Rochester Uber driver was the victim of a scam costing her more than $200. The driver says she was asked from someone claiming to be with Uber support to verify for her information, and then when she realized she had been scammed as a result, and now she has a warning for other Uber drivers. Our Matt Rainier reports.
On December 27, Jacqueline Riviere was completing her last drive of the evening for Uber when she received a call from a man named Avery claiming to be from Uber support. The man said Uber received a complaint saying they were unable to verify her as a driver, which Jacqueline says is a serious allegation. After entering in some information to confirm her identity with Uber, the man claiming to be with Uber offered $100 for the trouble. After entering in some additional information, Jacqueline began to grow concerned with some difficulties that had taken place with the transactions and spoke with Uber support directly.
So she started asking some verification questions, a lot of the same questions this guy had asked. And she says, let me help you secure your account. And when she said those words, I knew with absolute certainty I had been scammed.
Jacqueline ended up losing $225 as a result of this scam. She was able to secure her account to avoid any additional issues, and soon discovered she might not have been the only driver affected by the scam.
So I started doing some of my own research, and when I Googled this, it's like immediately I had 6 articles pop up from Houston, Texas, Salt Lake City, Utah, Rhode Island, Las Vegas, South Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee. This is happening all over the country.
Jacqueline claims this has been a problem that has been going on for at least 2 years now, and that Uber has done little to alert drivers of the scam. Although she has been impacted by it, she did offer some key advice for her fellow drivers to avoid this problem.
This particular type of scam I've learned is called an imposter scam. They call in and pretend to be from support. If you get a call like this, my advice to them is hang up immediately, go onto the app to the help center. All you're going to have is a text chat option. Pick one of the options. Do whatever you need to do to get a hold of a live agent. It can take a few minutes, but it's well worth it. To any driver that's been affected by this scam, there is, you can go online, you can file a report with local law enforcement, the Federal Trade Commission, and the FBI.
In Rochester, Matt Rainier, KTTC News.
KTTC reached out to Uber. They told us Uber will never call or text or email a driver for their password or banking details. They say if something doesn't seem right, to call Uber to verify. And now on to a story of a community coming together to help their neighbor. Dr. Gary Quimby lost his home to a house fire in Pine Island, and today a photographer was using her talents to help him get back on his feet. Noco Mills Photography hosted pet photo sessions to raise money for Quimby. She says this was a way to show a small-town veterinarian some big small-town love and support. Nicole Mills held 20-minute photo sessions at her studio in Pine Island. The pet owners were asked to donate $25 or whatever they could for their fee. She had 23 sessions booked for today, and she said all the proceeds will go to Quimby.
I love animals. I love photographing animals and their humans. So it just seemed like a good way for me to be able to help, and people get portraits of their pets. So it's a win-win for everybody.
The pet photos saw dogs, a litter of puppies, a bunny, and even a goat. Nicole Mills Photography has been doing business in the area for around 10 years. She specializes in photographing women, girls, and animals. And a reminder, we're just 2 weeks away from the 70th annual KTTC Eagles Cancer Telethon. All the money raised stays right here in Minnesota. We hope you join us on January 13th and 14th as we raise hope and awareness for cancer research. Well, still ahead, Democratic mayors across the country say they are fed up with the continued influx of migrants coming into their cities. What they say needs to be done next. Welcome back. Google has settled its $5 billion consumer privacy lawsuit. The tech giant agreed to settle a lawsuit claiming it secretly tracked the internet use of millions of people who thought they were doing their browsing privately. A trial date in the proposed class action lawsuit was scheduled for February 5th. However, a U.S. district judge put it on hold Thursday after lawyers for both sides said they had reached a preliminary settlement. Settlement terms were not disclosed, but the lawsuit sought at least $5 billion. Lawyers said they have agreed to a binding term sheet through mediation, and they are expected to present a formal settlement for court approval by February 24th. Frustrated by buses from Texas dropping off migrants by the thousands, the Democratic mayors of New York, Chicago, and Denver are trying to slow the surge. Last week, 14 busloads of migrants from Texas made their way to New York City. Steve Nannis has the latest.
December crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border reached a record monthly high, according to border authorities. Border agents encountered more than 225,000 migrants, overwhelming already stretched resources.
This is unacceptable. Our city here in Eagle Pass, we've been getting slammed with 2,000 to 3,000 people a day.
Senate Bill 4 Since last year, Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott has bused more than 92,000 migrants to cities across the country, according to his office. Those cities include Chicago, New York, and Denver, all of which are led by Democratic mayors. Now, those mayors say enough is enough.
For many months, we were able to keep the visualization of this crisis from hitting our streets, but we have reached a breaking point.
All of our cities have reached a point where we are either close to capacity or nearly out of room.
We need more federal support to be able to manage this amount of inflow. It will crush city budgets around the country.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is heading to Eagle Pass, Texas, along the southern border next week to meet with Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Border Patrol, and local officials. And Mexican officials will travel to Washington, D.C. next month to discuss curbing the influx of migrants into the U.S. But lawmakers say Congress needs to get something done beforehand.
We are going to have to deal with this, and we cannot deal with it as Republicans or Democrats. We're going to have to deal with it as a Congress, come together and find solutions and get something done.
I'm Steve Nannis reporting.
Here's your first alert weather with meteorologist Sarah Gannon.
Well, we continue to see icy conditions all across southeast Minnesota and now starting to move into northeast Iowa. Conditions only slowly starting to improve. Now we've had a little time for those plows to get out there, get some work done. So we have been seeing some slight improvement. Now noting quite a bit of blue on the map here with our road conditions instead of pink like we had earlier this evening. So some slight improvement is showing, however, still plenty of ice and especially black ice on some of those bridges and other surfaces here this evening. So I'll step out of the way. You can check out some of those cameras. Highway 52 there at 2nd Street in the Rochester area and also I-35 in Owatonna. So plenty of wet and icy roads here in southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa here this evening. So still anticipate to maybe try and avoid travel if at all possible. Otherwise, if you anticipate to head out on the roads here tonight, even into early tomorrow morning. Allow for some extra travel time and really slow down. Please just use some caution and be careful here tonight. We continue to track those icy conditions as that freezing drizzle continues here at this hour, anticipating to see a transition over to some snow later on here this evening. Winter weather advisory for a good chunk of southeast Minnesota and northeast Iowa. This has been extended now from midnight until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And again, that's because of that slippery and icy travel that we're anticipating here tonight and tomorrow morning. So as we check in with your future track radar, drizzle still happening. We're also looking to see some snow showers there down towards Worth County and moving into parts of Floyd County. However, our main line just moving through the Twin Cities metro area here at this hour and will slowly be making its way to our northern edge in the next hour or two. But still looking at this light snow stretching from the Twin Cities metro area all the way up I-35 corridor there towards Duluth and Superior, the Twin Port region there. So we'll look to see that light snow as the evening progresses. Best timing here when it comes to snowfall, especially accumulating snowfall, will be between midnight and about 4 a.m. However, we could still see some light snow through about 8 a.m. or so, and then flurries continuing through about the lunch hour. So looking to see very minor totals for the area, and many of us looking to pick up less than an inch, but up to an inch is possible here. I do think a lot of us have a good chance of maybe just a quick dusting, a couple tenths, but I do think a majority of us there, noting those slightly darker blues, could be picking up about an inch, about a half inch to an inch on the higher side. So overall, a very minor system, but it's packing quite a punch with that freezing drizzle, creating that glaze of ice in addition to up to an inch of snowfall. So timing things out, that snow continues to move into the area by about midnight or so, starting to see that here in the Rochester area, and especially on our northern and western edges. We'll look to see that continue to be isolated to scattered in manner through about 6 a.m. or so. Still some light snow showers out there, dissipating by about 8 a.m. or so, and a few flurries possible through the lunch hour. And then we'll slowly see that cloud cover clearing out for Sunday evening, for New Year's Eve there, and then as we roll into Monday, looking at temperatures on the cooler side there, back into the teens. Sunshine, though, on the way for your Monday afternoon as temperatures climb into the upper 20s and low 30s. So outside of our snow chance tonight and tomorrow morning, looking at a pretty dry forecast, looking to start off 2024 on a bright and quiet note there. Temperatures still remaining above average. So outside right now, live look there at your Louis Donato live camera there downtown Rochester. Notice there the roads pretty wet and likely looking at some icy conditions there on Broadway Avenue as well. Temperature wise, not too bad. Mild here this evening there into those low to mid 20s, wind speeds ranging about 5 to 15 miles per hour. So freezing drizzle, light snow here for tonight. Snowfall amounts staying under an inch. We'll look to see temperatures tonight in the 20s. We'll be in the upper 20s to low 30s tomorrow with cloudy conditions and flurries. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. We ring in 2024 there on Monday with some sunshine and highs in the low to mid 30s. We stay above average in the mid to upper 20s and low 30s here through the next several days. Nick?
Next in sports, Anthony Edwards is coming off his 44-point game in the Wolves' home game against LeBron and the Lakers, plus highlights and a full breakdown from the final day of the Louis Donato Holiday Classic on the campus of Winona State after the break.
KTTC Sports from the Lucina Siding and Windows Sports Wall.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nick Spiliopoulos. Tonight from the Sports Wall, the final day of the Louis Donato Holiday Classic. A little Vikings and Wild, but we start tonight with the Minnesota Timberwolves. In Minneapolis, one of the greatest to ever do it, LeBron James inside Target Center taking on young star Anthony Edwards and the Wolves. Speaking of these two, first quarter shot clock expiring and Euro stepping around LeBron, and the lofty floater drops. This one tight all night long. Finish didn't disappoint. Wolves up 7 with 1:27 left in the game. Anthony Davis cuts the game to 4. Same score under a minute. Ant drives baseline. Mike Conley, like a car everyone knows how to drive. Automatic. On his 39th birthday, LeBron showing the association he ages like fine wine. Backing down, finishing through contact. Now stick with me here. LeBron converts the and one. Austin Reeves makes the technical foul free throw awarded after McDaniels took exception to the call, so it's a 3-point game. Conley can't put the game away. So it gets to LeBron, 2.3 seconds left. He connects, but hold everything, folks. It's scored a 2, not 3. After further review, the call stands. Lakers trail by 1. An instant classic for the Target Center's history. LeBron gets the last shot of the game, but no good in Minneapolis. Tonight, Wolves win 108-106 over the Lakers. Now to the Wild. In Winnipeg, facing the Jets, Jared Spurgeon returning to the lineup from a lower body injury, forcing him to miss the last 7 games. Not a great start, 4 minutes in. Alex Iafallo claps one from the blue line well wide of the net, but ricochets off the skate of Spurgeon past Gustafson. Now before the period's end, puck pinned in the corner, former Wild Nino Niederreiter finds great position and a wide open net to double Winnipeg's lead. Second period, Wild now down 3, power play expiring, but tic-tac-toe passing gives Ryan Hartman, the grade A, chance, his 4th goal in his last 4 games, 3-1 Wild. Minnesota goaltender Philip Gustafson starting the game, played 2 periods, replacing the third by Fleury. No further news on Gus. First shift of the third, Matt Boldy settles the puck right on top of the crease, and Hellbuck can't stop it, make it a 3-2 game. Minnesota never found the third to tie. Now that empty netter didn't count, but either way, the winning streak ends at 4, losing to Winnipeg this afternoon, 4-2. Coach Hines with his thoughts on playing from behind all but 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's we fought back at times, but I think we weren't at our best tonight, and I think tomorrow we got to be at our best. And we knew coming in the series that we're going to have to bring our best to win. And tonight, I thought there were times where we had it, but we didn't have it like we normally do, and that's our objective tomorrow.
In the NFL, it's a classic rivalry with a boatload of playoff implications on the line. Both the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers with 7-8 records, which is 1 game back of the final wild card spot in the NFC. Now, the last time these two teams met, it has shaped into a turning point of sorts for both teams. Vikings lose Kirk Cousins for the year. They've gone 3-4 since. As for the Packers, Jordan Love starting to show signs of promise, going 5-3 after Week 8. The loser of tomorrow's game most likely means they're eliminated from the playoffs. Coach KOC content with the week of practice and where his team is ahead of Week 17.
Been a good week of preparation. Our guys kind of have a playoff kind of mindset towards this game. We know both teams feel like we've still got a lot to play for, and going to be very competitive, as is any game. In December in the NFC North, feel like where our team is at right now, they've got a great mindset towards what we need to go do to win football games.
The 127th meeting, Packers-Vikings, is a Sunday night football edition. Catch it right here on KTTC tomorrow night. Kickoff 7:20. Now locally, the final day of the Lewiston Auto Holiday Classic at Winona State. First game of the day, the 11th ranked Cotter Ramblers taking on Prairie du Chien out of Wisconsin. First half, Clarissa Sauer, she's going to get a catch and shoot 3 opportunity. Clanks out, but she follows her own shot. Lucy Fitch, the offensive rebound. Back to Sauer, 1 dribble, and in for an easy 2. More from the Ramblers, Sauer to Fitch. Fitch makes the extra pass to Kata Thrynen on the money, pushing the Cotter lead up to 9. In the second half, more glass crashing from Sauer. Reads this like poetry, smooth catch, gather, back up for another second chance bucket. She finished the game with a game-high 26 for the Ramblers. Second half, all Cotter as they finish 1-1 on the weekend with a 66-48 win over the Blackhawks. Rounding out the girls' games today, KM fell to New Prague 61-46. The Byron Bears rolled through Chatfield 66-35, and the Lake City Tigers put together a nice 58-40 win over Lewiston Altura. Second game of the day, same teams, but on the boys' side, Prairie du Chien and Cotter start with a textbook pick and roll from the Ramblers. Luke Gardner decides he's going to use it, feeds to Ian Schmidt, and the soft touch high off the glass falls. Cotter again, Carson Rader drives the lane, rips through, and the lefty floater. That's another 2 for Cotter. Another dribble drive for the Ramblers. Schmidt takes it to the baseline, finishing at the 10, taking an early lead. Ramblers cranking up the pressure. They get the trap. They're going to force the turnover. Now Gabe Stewart's going to get it on the baseline, using a little bit too much on the shot, but Gardner gets way up, tipping it back into the basket. Cotter boys take care of business 61-49, picking up a pair of wins at the Classic. Only 2 more boys basketball games today. The Byron Bears had a great game, taking down Lewiston Altura 93-56. And Keegan Ryan dropped 20 points for the Lake City Tigers in their 63-39 win over the Winona Windhawks, marking the end of the event. That's it from the Sports Wall tonight. We'll be right back.
Great night. See you tomorrow. Go Packers.